Hey, good morning, everyone. Oliver Joyce from Whiskeybarrel Studios here. How you doing? How are you doing? What a strange time we live through. I'm of course talking about the pandemic that is sweeping the world and this era of social distancing and essentially isolation. And right now I'm in a pretty isolated spot here on the Great North Walk in Sydney, Australia. It's actually a beautiful day. It's peaceful and quiet. You can hear a waterfall far below me. I'll show you where I am. I'm just sitting up on top of a rocky outcropping over this valley. And when you're out here, it's kind of hard to imagine just what the hell is going on in the world right now. It's not something I've ever experienced, and it's not something I'm sure most of us have ever been through, certainly in the Western world, where we haven't gone through, lived through wars or depressions, and for many young people, even recessions, certainly for those who've grown up in war-torn countries, Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, that kind of thing, something like this is probably, not so unusual. But for everyone I know, and probably everyone you know, it's a strange time, a time of uncertainty, a time of anxiety, and a time of, I guess, in some ways, a lack of trust in each other. You go shopping, and many people will kind of look at you suspiciously as you look at them. People keep their distance. Do you have the coronavirus, etc.? And here in Australia, the number of cases are skyrocketing. Where I am in New South Wales is about, 1,500 cases or something like that. I could be wrong. And that's growing every day, and you do sense it. There is a bit of unease, but at the same token, I have noticed a lot of kindness and even sort of warmth between people and in the community. As even though we're distancing, we're offering each other things, and do you need some of this? I've got extra supplies of this, that kind of thing. I mean, we are pretty well stocked here in Australia. There's of course been a ridiculous rush on things like toilet paper and hand sanitizer, which is just a panic. It's human nature to panic, but we are only in the early days of this, and got these fruit flies hanging around me. One actually came in my eye before. That's more of a concern for me than any virus right now. I'm on the Great North Walk, which I've been on for my game dev hikes, and I'm not doing a game dev hike, walk and talk today, but I wanted to do a video just to check in with everybody and see how you're doing. On this track, there's usually very few people. I usually walk for sort of 4.5 hours, and I might see 5 or 6 people. Today I've seen over 20 people in the last sort of 2.5 hours, which is still not that many, but it's a lot more than you'd normally see because there's nothing to do. We've been told to quarantine, and everyone is. Bushwalks are by their very nature isolating, and there's no real danger of interacting with anyone up close. There's been some friendly waves and a good-natured "how you doing, stay safe" kind of thing, and that's been kind of reassuring to me. It's important for us to keep our trust in each other and keep our humanity, because that is what will be the lasting sort of legacy of this, is how we treat each other. We don't want to ostracize people that have COVID. Certainly keep your distance if you haven't, and be, isolate. All this stuff. This isn't going to be one of those videos where I tell you, what you need to do, because you know what you need to do. And my wife and I have taken my son Isaac out of daycare, and that was heart-wrenching because he loves it there, and the carers are they're so wonderful. And over the last sort of year and a half, year and a bit, we've really gotten to know them, and I fear some of those people might, be reduced shifts. Some of them might lose their jobs. They're going to do everything they can to stay afloat. But daycares and preschools everywhere, are going to suffer, as are so many businesses. And, we're keeping Isaac home because we don't want to spread the virus and we don't want the virus to get to us. I was going to announce this at some point. I guess it's as good a time as any, but my wife is pregnant. We're about 5.5 months along. The baby's due in July. It's pretty exciting. It's a, strange time to be bringing a child into the world, but the baby will be loved, and it will be, protected and safe. And his big brother Isaac will be thrilled to have a younger brother. It's a boy, and my wife being pregnant, it's very important that she's safe, and so she's working from home. I'm working from home. What are you guys doing? Let me know in the comments. How's this affected your life? How are you finding the isolation? Are you worried about your job? Are you worried about your friends and your, how's your mental state? Please let me know. If you're worried and you need a sense of community, there is, of course, the Sword and Sandals Discord, which I'll put a link to in this video. There's always a lot of talk, mainly about, Sword and Sandals games and so on, but there's a good sense of camaraderie and community there. And in this era of social isolation, it's more important than ever for us to be connected virtually where we can. Web chats, set up your cameras. And just yesterday, a few friends and I set up a little web conference using a program called Microsoft Teams, and we just had a beer and checked in on each other. And we're going to try and do that at least once a week, maybe even a couple of times a week. My family and I have a Messenger Skype chat thing that we all type to each other, every day, and checking on each other, because it's hard. My parents are turning 70 this year, and my dad is 70, my mum is turning 70 this year, and they really miss my son Isaac, and they miss my nieces and nephews, and because they're isolating, they can't see them in person right now. So that's challenging. There's a lot of sacrifices to be made. Again, I want to reiterate that this is nothing compared to those who've lived through a war zone, but it is nothing like we have seen in our lifetime. And the power of humanity is a real thing, and we do endure. We've endured much worse, and we will come out of this, but we won't be the same, and hopefully we will be better for it. Hopefully there are meaningful, lasting changes. We're seeing in America how the Trump government has botched this and completely mishandled the coronavirus, and America is now the largest carrier of the coronavirus, and their governor Andrew Cuomo, I think, is doing an awesome job of just spreading the right message, even while the White House is being dragged kicking and screaming into playing ball. So for my friends in America, and my business partner Aram from eGames is in New York, and it's become a friend over these years that we've been together, and I hope he's safe, and I hope everyone over there stays safe. Look after each other where you can, because we're all in this together. So Whiskeybarrel Studios, my little games business, it feels almost sort of kind of trite to even talk about what I'm doing, because in times like this, what do games matter? What do the little distractions that I make matter? I think the mentality I want to have is that they do matter, because they provide escape for those that need it. Many of you are struggling with reduced shifts, not being able to pay your rent, sick relatives, being sick yourself. You're isolated, and that's where games and movies and entertainment comes in. And as I guess an entertainment provider and a storyteller, that's what I hope my games can do. And so, in my small way, I want to just keep making these games where I can, and keep building them. It's not something heroic, and nothing on the scale of what the amazing nurses and teachers and doctors and everybody on the front line of this, and even the cashiers and those working the shops. They're the heroes. But if I can keep making games and keep them coming, maybe it'll provide a little bit of relief and downtime, from all this. So I'm still working on Crusader. Because my boy Isaac is home with us, my wife actually works for the Ministry of Health here in New South Wales, and so she's been slammed with work, and she is helping to connect researchers and those with potential tests and cures and support for prevention of COVID and so on. She's connecting them with funds from the government, so she has quite a much more important job than game developer. So we're kind of sharing the duties. I'm looking after Isaac Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and she's got him Thursday, Friday. And so I'm trying to squeeze in the Whiskeybarrel stuff when I can, working late at night and in the few hours in a day when Isaac might be distracted or busy. So naturally, the work on Crusader is slowing down. It's going to be slow. I had originally hoped the game would be done by April, May, and even before this whole thing, that might have been ambitious. You know me and deadlines. I've never been the best, but I there's going to be a deadline delay, but does that matter? In the greater scheme, the game will be made hopefully before the next baby is due. So I'm really going to race to get this out before July, and I'll do my very best. I'm starting to work more late at night, as you heard, and the last week or so I've actually kind of had one of the few kind of mental and emotional blocks in the game where I've just struggled to sit there and make it work, and not just because of the turmoil going around everyone, also just because I've just struggled with the code of the game a little bit. I'm working in the overland map stuff right now, and the code has gotten more complicated. I'm rebuilding it all from scratch to be more like the original Defender of the Crown that Crusader was based on, and less like the Crusader that you see. And by doing that, I've run into a couple of issues, and things have taken a little bit longer than I wanted them to. I feel like I'm towards the end of that, and hopefully in the next week or so I'll be back working on the battles. Then once the battles are done, there'll be tournaments, jousting, that kind of fun stuff. The music for the game is beautiful. I've got some new composers, Electro and a girl called M. Baker, and the Fleischer brothers did a track, who are some great fantasy composers, and Joshua Queen from New York. So I've actually got a bunch of cool new music tracks which you won't have heard for the game, which will be nice. I personally feel like this version of Crusader Redux will actually be different, but kind of a lot better than the original. So for those who enjoyed the original, I really hope that you enjoyed this one. And I'm really I'm glad I made the decision to work on this rather than jump right into Sword and Sandal 6, which is starting later this year, and a game that I've been talking about making for probably the last 2 years, and I keep saying it's starting soon. I knew that once I started on that this would be very much delayed or not made at all. So I'm glad I've been able to get Crusader Redux out of the way, and it's going to run on mobile phones and Steam and everything. Sorry, I've just been tapping my foot. I realized the shaky camera nature of that. I've got to stop doing that. It's a bad habit. See it? There's my leg. Ah, dear. I've been doing this for years, and I still am struggling to be a professional web video logger. Anyway, that's Crusader. Spartacus is on iOS now. A few people have complained about the controls, and I get that. The controls on mobile kind of suck. They do, and platform games on mobile are hard anyway. So I'm actually working next week. I'm going to take a little break from Crusader just for a few days and try and fix up the controls for Spartacus. So please check out the game, and please know that there is a patch coming. If you like the game, leave a rating or a review, because it hasn't had many downloads. Everybody loves the classic Sword and Sandal stuff, but some of the newer ones, Pirates, Medieval, Spartacus, haven't done that well. I feel like Vanilla Ice, had Ice Ice Baby, and then everyone knows you for that, and all my new stuff hasn't been popular. This stuff doesn't matter. The fact that I still have an audience for Sword and Sandals never ceases to amaze me, and I love the fact that in every couple of days I get a tweet or an email from someone going, hey, I love the series, it's kind of cool. So thank you to you all for being here for me, and I want to be here for you in whichever way I can, and I will always try to reply to your comments and messages when I can, and if I don't, I'm sorry, it wasn't deliberate. I just forgot, because I'm old, I have a grey beard, look at that. Alright, well, I'm going to keep hiking now, and I got another couple of hours before I head home and back into home quarantine, really. And I'll keep working on the game. I'm trying to take a couple of nights off a week to watch a movie or play a little bit of Talisman, the board game, with my wife. Excellent game if you haven't played it, and you can order it online. It's a classic fantasy board game from the 80s. It's been remade a few times. I got the 4th edition and went kind of crazy and bought pretty much every expansion. I've only got one to get, which is insane. And I've got like 12 boxes of expansions for it. That's what happens when you get old and you don't go out anymore. You don't spend all your money on going out drinking and partying with your friends and dating and so on. You sit at home and you buy board games and video games and stuff like that, and then you don't get to play them because you have a kid. So when this whole pandemic is over, for those of you who are young, get out there again and see the world and live, love, and laugh. And I fear this, pandemic may go for a while, but I hope that when it's done, we will appreciate what we have had before this and each other, and just the joy of human interaction, and just the beauty of the world we have. And I'll leave it there, and please stay safe, and try not to be too isolated as far as chatting to each other. Physically we're all distant from each other, but stay in contact with your friends via this kind of thing. Stay safe, and stay entertained. Keep your mind active, and we'll get through this. This too shall pass, my friends. Until next time, bye for now.